due to my profession as a relationship coach and as an interpreter of the dynamics of behavior between humans, I'm asked by men especially sometimes why it is that the women that they're involved with will come off as really, really interested and really strong and into them, then all of a sudden just ghost on them, just completely disappear, never to be heard from again in some cases, or disappear for quite a while, weeks, sometimes months, and then just suddenly resurface as if nothing happened. Well, there's all kinds of reasons that that could be the case. It could be that something that he did or said that she's not going to tell him that he did or said that bothered her. It could just simply be because she's not interested anymore. But a lot of times when you see that kind of erratic behavior, it's because a woman, and this could be true of men and women, but in the case of women, a lot of times, because I'm speaking from the standpoint of a guy, is that they have suffered some kind of emotional damage. Not always, but quite often, and more as time goes on, especially in this day and age, you find a lot of that. Women who come from broken homes who suffer emotionally, just like men who come from broken homes. But for women, it tends to be a much worse reactional quality that's involved if they came from those kinds of familial situations, because they react to things like a lack of love, a lack of attention, a lack of someone desiring them, and on a much deeper level than most men tend to. So this can create some really serious relational problems when they try to engage men in romantic relationships. It is very true. A lot of women under those circumstances will come across as really, really into the guy. And this also leads us to another situation that a lot of these guys observe and they don't seem to understand, and I can try to help you to understand it a little bit, as they'll notice that if they can talk to the young lady truthfully about her dating history, they find a lot of times that she's used to dating certain types of guys, which this particular guy is not. In other words, a lot of times they may be used to dating the guys who are jerks and who treat them badly and who are very aloof emotionally or very unavailable emotionally, who kind of treat the women with a sort of a mild neglect to just straight downright disregard. And here it is, this guy comes along and he treats her like she's the greatest thing since sliced bread. This is his queen. He treats her with the respect that she deserves. He treats her with complete deference. He treats her with love. And she runs away. And primarily for this, it comes down to a type of paradigm that I'm going to share later on in more depth in other videos, but I call it emotional alignment. Basically, what emotional alignment is comes down to is what are you used to from an emotional standpoint. So if you're a person who's used to being lied to all the time, abused, and so on and so forth, and especially this is true with women because they are emotional creatures first. Don't get me wrong, because I know a lot of very powerfully intellectual women. And women are great strategic thinkers, by the way. So they're great thinkers. It's not that. But their emotions sometimes undermine their progress or their successful inclusions in romantic relationships because emotionally speaking, they're not prepared to deal with a guy who's going to be all about them. They're prepared to deal, emotionally speaking, with the jerks. You see? That's what it is. So when a guy comes along and shows her that he's going to be the type of man that we would like to think, generally speaking, any woman would want, that's going to be the last person she wants. And chances are she's going to leave this guy and go for what she's emotionally aligned to or aligned for. Bottom line. And a lot of guys have a difficult time understanding that. And I get it, because we're logical as guys, generally speaking, even though the way that we act sometimes is very illogical. But at our core, we're logical. So at our core, in our minds, we're saying like, well, if we treat her this way, we treat her that way, and we do well by her, well, what's she taking off for? Why is she running? Why is she not paying attention to me? And it can be very difficult to love a woman who is like that. 9 times out of 10, what has to happen is that woman has to separate herself from any kind of a romantic context with a man and try to learn to clear-sightedly and in a very logical vein take a harder look at her life and what she needs to do to restack her priorities in such a way that she starts to distance herself from her past just enough to become healthy enough to engage healthy relationships. And that could take a long time for a woman or a man to do. But for a lot of you guys out there who are wondering why this happens, that's what it is. They are emotionally damaged, and you come along, if you are by any stretch of the imagination, emotionally healthy, is not going to be something that's going to resonate with them. In fact, it will scare the hell out of them. It will literally scare them, because you have to remember that women operate in these types of environments on their feelings first before anything else. Everything they do, even the logical stuff they do, is still at the end of the day filtered through how they feel, is filtered through their emotions. So if what you're bringing to them emotionally is not what she's used to, she is going to start to feel insecure. As a matter of fact, what you bring to her emotionally might even start to make her feel as if you are smothering her, as if you're giving her too much attention, and that will create a rift between you, and before you know it, she's gone. Bottom line. So for those of you out there, especially you guys, who are wondering why this happens, there it is. My name is Dave Thomas III. I'm the author of my little book of truisms, and this is your moment of truth for today.